Dr. Amir, how are you? Your garden's looking glorious.
Oh, thank you. Morning. I'm very well, thanks. All the better for seeing you guys.
Your garden is phenomenal. I mean, the amount of wildlife... I mean, I saw you post a video the other day where you have boxes for your hedgehogs, which is just amazing. Well, and they're not even your hedgehogs, they're just the hedgehogs. It's brilliant.
Yeah, they don't belong to me. They belong to the wild. But yeah, they live in our hedgehog houses. We feed them every night. It's a bit of a responsibility, and they leave us little presents on the lawn each morning, which I then have to clean up.
Nice.
But they are a joy to have.
Oh, well, yeah, we've got to make the most of them, haven't we? And I know you've been doing your regular Dr. Dolittle over the weekend, haven't you? Been making friends with more animals.
I have. I've been out and about. The weather's been gorgeous, and I've been seeing all sorts of wildlife. I've seen deer, all sorts of birds on our feeders, and we've got a whole host of frogs and newts in the pond. It's just been absolutely fantastic. And this was a scene on Saturday morning, just up the road from us. And these gorgeous horses in this field of mist, really, and it was really just magical. I felt very glad to be there. And these are the swans in the pond near our house. I have to count the cygnets every morning to make sure all 10 are there. I don't know why I have to do that, but I feel like I do.
Cygnet watch.
Charlotte sees that from her bedroom window every morning. It's just,
That's not true. What with my pet swans? Yeah.
I think Amir just got lost and worked his way to your garden. That's the pond in the front.
Now, Amir, look, it's Bank Holiday weekend. Everyone's out enjoying it. You know, the weather looks great. It's fantastic. And everyone's getting very excited by the 21st of June, where full restrictions will be sort of eased and we're back to, you know, normality, really. Do you think we're heading that way, or do you think is it going to be wise that we should push that date back a little bit?
Well, I think it's too early to say. We've all got our eyes on this date of the 21st of June, when all legal limits on social distancing are set to be lifted. But government figures and scientists are now suggesting this may be delayed depending on data that they are poring over as we speak. And it's all to do with this Indian variant. We've seen hotspots across the UK. We've seen a slight increase in hospital admissions in certain areas, particularly over the last week of May that we've just been through. And what we want to know really is just how much this might impact hospital admissions and how much the vaccines can prevent us. So there's a real race to get people over the age of 50 vaccinated, and that's with both doses of the vaccine. Currently, less than half of people aged 50 to 59 have had both doses of the vaccine. And it's both doses that are essential in the protection against this Indian variant. We know that one dose doesn't offer much protection, but both doses do. And the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be really crucial. So we just don't know. We just don't know. I think they are seeding the thoughts of doubt in our mind just in case they do have to delay it by 2 to 3 weeks. And some scientists have suggested that delay could help us ramp up the vaccination program, get more people fully vaccinated. But it all depends on the data that comes through.
Just looking at the 21st of June, and I had to remind myself this morning, actually, go exactly what are the restrictions? What are the more easing restrictions that are going to come into place on the 21st of June? And looking at them now, there are things like nightclubs and music venues will reopen. So imagine, small nightclubs, big nightclubs, they'll all be able to reopen. There'll be no restriction on the number of people you can meet indoors or outdoors. Large events, such as festivals, are to be lifted. Now, some of them sound OK, large events like festivals. We know they did some trials and some of these outdoor events, and they seem to go away, happen quite well, and there were no major infections as a result. But do you get worried when you hear about things like nightclubs and those sort of quite small venues, when we still know that this virus can transmit in enclosed areas? Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, it's all about indoor mixing for me, and the concern around there and the lack of ventilation in some of these venues like nightclubs. It's really important because we know that the vast majority of spread is through airborne, so where it lingers in tiny, tiny droplets in the air, and it can stay there for hours and hours, and people just breathe it in. It's slightly different to that droplet spread. Yes, that does concern me. And the people who tend to go to those places are younger people who may not have had the vaccine yet. And although they may be at less risk of serious illness from the vaccine, they are still at risk of long COVID and transmitting it to other vulnerable people. So I have got some concerns, but it is good news that the vast majority of, people over the age of 70, 90% of people over the age of 70 have had both doses of the vaccine, and they are the most vulnerable. It's such a balancing act. But I think just looking at the data, particularly around this Indian variant, is what's going to be important over the next 2 weeks. And it's going to be a tough decision. And whatever decision is made, there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah, and Dr. Amir, when you look at the picture over the next few weeks, months, over the summer, we've got this survey, haven't we, about people travelling abroad and whether they're going to stick to the restrictions. And this Good Morning Britain survey has shown that more than 1 in 3 people intending to travel to amber list countries say they won't obey all government rules when they get home. So you must have real concerns when you hear that actually the risk that we're going to have from people going away on holidays, not sticking to the rules, potentially bringing back variants with them, and then that transmitting around the country could be set to make things worse again, which nobody wants.
Yeah, that's a real concern for me. If you're going to an amber list country, first of all, you shouldn't really be going unless it's absolutely essential, and a holiday isn't essential. And if you do come back, you must adhere to the rules. To hear some people saying they won't do that is really concerning, because when you're in these countries, you could be mixing with other people from other countries. And we know there are variants around, the South African variant, the Brazil variant, which aren't particularly susceptible to the immune response triggered off by the vaccines. And that could cause all sorts of problems here in the UK. So please be responsible. Don't ruin it for everyone else. If you want to go on holiday, that's your decision. I wouldn't recommend it. But when you come back, you must self-isolate, and you must get both tests on day 2 and day 8.
Yeah. I can't believe that, 1 in 3 people are saying they're not going to self-isolate at the return. I just think that it's just shocking. It really is shocking. We'll debate it later, but...
We will do.
I mean, where does the responsibility come in?
Yeah, and I think, those rules are there for a reason, aren't they?
Shocking.
To make sure that we don't go back to where we came from. And I think that although everybody wants the restrictions lifted, everybody wants to try to get back to normal, we don't at all want to risk going back to where we were before, do we?
We'll talk about that later. Just very quickly, Dr. Amir, Nadhim Zahawi, the Vaccines Minister at the weekend, seemed to suggest that they are considering saying to all NHS staff that it's now compulsory to have the vaccine, because we know there has been... Look, there's low uptake in all sections of society, actually, but we know that it happens within the NHS. You've got people from all different types of backgrounds there at the NHS, and of course, they'll have all sorts of reasons for being hesitant. But they are NHS staff, and they are there to protect lives, they are there to save us, and if we're in a situation that there is a disproportionate number of NHS staff without the vaccine, we could be in serious trouble in weeks and months to come. Would you back a call for compulsory NHS vaccines?
Well, I think it's important that all NHS staff do get the vaccine to protect themselves and their patients. And I think we all have a duty of care towards our patients as a result. And I would encourage everyone in the NHS to get the vaccine. But I don't think it should be made compulsory. I don't think that's the right approach. It's not something we've done before on a mass scale. I think, identifying these people, educating them, getting them to ask the questions about why they're not getting the vaccine, and hopefully giving them answers that reassure them, is probably a better approach. I think it's important to say that 90% of NHS staff have had the vaccine, so it's a small proportion of people who haven't had it, and finding out why they haven't had it and educating them, I think, is a better approach than compulsory vaccination.
OK. And just before we finish, in the interest of balance, I suppose, well, it's not... I'm not going to say it is balanced, but did you see the protests at the weekend?
I did.
Yes.
Yes.
So these are, as ever with these protests, some of them will be anti-vaccine people, some of them are just simply anti-lockdown people, but a group of people protested through London, shouting freedom, we want our freedom, 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 and decided to go into Westfield shopping centre in West London to make that point. So let me get this right. It's a gorgeous sunny day. The pubs are open, the parks are open, the beaches are open, the zoos are open. But these people who want their freedom thought it'd be a good idea to go into an indoor shopping centre on an afternoon and prevent people exercising their freedom and being able to shop and open up their retail stores.
For those people who want to go and do some shopping.
I don't get it.
A little bit curtailed.
I hate people who call these people morons, and I don't think that's right, but that was certainly moronic at the weekend. It was.
I mean, there's one way of getting out and about, isn't there?
But what is the point they're trying to make?
Better ways to spend the bank holiday weekend, can't you?
Amazing.